never eat as a type 1 diabetic because you got to know your boundaries, right? But before we get in, I want to make sure everything is live. And in fact, we are streaming so you guys can actually hear me. So if you can hear, drop a 1 in the comments below. I want to make sure we got everything rolling. And I'm going to test our video right now as well. It looks like we do have that. Cool. So I got a live feed of you guys in the chat. I want to make sure we've got open communication for this one because we're going to have some participation as well. So get some water. Let that serve as your reminder to get some water as well. And let's jump in. So not too long ago, I was going out to dinner with my wife and her family. And there was an amazing menu ahead of us full of Italian food. And my wife's family is Italian, so Italian food's a popular dinner option, right? And I recognized as we're kind of picking through the menu what I wanted to get. I'm looking around to all the different entrees that just sound amazing. Of course, I have no idea what they mean because everything's in Italian. So I'm just looking for something that sounds like a fancy dish, right? And I can figure out which ones are pasta, and that's pretty much it. But as I'm looking through, I recognized this thought pattern where I was looking for the safe option. I'm like, okay, where's the thing that either I know the carb counts for or like isn't super high carb or isn't going to pose the biggest threat to my blood sugars, right? Like, where is that option? And my wife kind of sees me and she's kind of glancing over like, hey, is there something wrong? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out what's like an easy route for dinner, I mean, has anybody else just looked for the easy option? You're looking through the menu and you're like, pasta, pizza, no, milkshake, no, this is all too difficult. Chicken salad with a side of black beans. I don't know. Like, you just kind of look through. Let me know in the chat if I'm the only person that's ever looked for a safe dinner option. But here we go. Lots of people jumping in. Cool. With that, though, she's looking at me like I'm crazy because this is pretty recent. And she's like, Matt, you know how to navigate food. Like you're pretty good at this diabetes thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's worth the risk, And she's like, what risk? Like you're consistently 90 to 95% time in range. You don't see massive fluctuations. You're good at this. And I'm like, I guess you're right. I'm like, why don't I believe in myself here? And I was thinking backwards and I'm like, oh, I'm tying it to this previous memory, borderline PTSD of watching my blood sugars shoot through the roof towards 400 after one of these types of meals about 10 years previously. Right. And it was one of those meals where you're like, this looks delicious. I'm jumping right in. I took the amount of insulin I thought I needed. And then 45 minutes later, I feel sick to my stomach, nauseous. I take a bunch of extra insulin. Nothing happens. It's like insulin is water. Then you guys might have had similar positions like that where you're like, it's just stuck. I may never see in-range blood sugars again. Right? This is just how life is now. I'm going to stay stuck at 400 and I'm probably going to go to the hospital soon. So I'm remembering back to that memory and I'm just like, I really don't want to experience that ever again. So I'm still glancing at the safe options, quote unquote safe, right? But the reality is she was right. Like I do know what I'm doing. And when I'm trying to find the safe options, really that's just me trying to sink backwards into a previous version of myself that was fearful of the larger carb options. And, at home in a familiar environment, I consistently eat 90, 100, 110 carbs in a meal. And it's no big deal. Like everything stays stable. So she's like, Matt, just get something that you want to get something that's delicious and you'll figure it out. I'm pretty positive you know how to do this thing. I'm like, all right. So I ordered this giant bowl of pasta, right? There's chicken, there's sauce, there's, side of garlic bread. It was fantastic. I'm trying to think of like an Italian word. All I can think of is French right now. So I just said magnifique, right? It was absolutely a wonderful meal. Great conversation. Everybody was great. And I'm glancing at my blood sugars 30 minutes later, an hour later. Starting blood sugar was 108. 30 minutes in, I'm 108. I'm like, okay, is it going to drop? Can I go too far in the wrong direction? An hour later, 110. Another hour later, we're still at the table because that's just kind of how Italian meals go sometimes. We're 2 hours in. I glance at my blood sugars, 105. I'm like, oh my gosh, my wife was right, right? And it was refreshing for me to realize that there are still meals that we can have where technically it was not safe, right? I think I dosed for like 90 or 100 carbs, and it was a guess. It was a complete guess. I didn't know for sure if it was going to work out, and I had some plans in place just in case it didn't work out, right? You always want to be checking. But as I'm eating through that meal, two things occurred to me. One, a lot of our decisions are based off of previous results, whether they're positive or negative. If I have consistently eaten Italian food and always had perfect blood sugars, I'm going to perceive those meals as the safe options, which means I might opt for Italian food more often than not, right? Versus if I've had negative experiences with Italian food, I'm more likely to lean away from going to Italian food for dinner, right? Or if I'm there, I might opt for some of the not so Italian options, like a salad, right? And so we let our pasts determine what our current and future realities look like. Unfortunately, it's our brain trying to learn and keep us safe. I get that. But something to be aware of with our diabetes decisions, because ultimately, 10 years ago, even, diabetes management looked radically different. 10 years ago, we didn't have personalized macronutrient profiles, which we have now, right? This is one of the components that we teach in our programs, is how to navigate a meal like that. How do you have pasta? How do you have pizza, hamburgers? How do you have macaroni and cheese and stuff your face and still stay in range? All right, there's ways to do this now that, yeah, I'm still remembering that we're allowed to eat these foods, because so many times I was told by my doctors, my endos, you can't eat high carb foods. You can't eat dessert. You can't have carbs. And it's like, well, yes, we can, right? We have new methods of how to keep blood sugars in range, new strategies. We take new pieces of information and we've improved upon them. It's a lot of great stuff out there for diabetes now. And so as we're thinking about, what are the foods that I personally would never eat? The reality is food that has poison, right? I wouldn't eat that. That's definitely one. I'm going to stay away from poisonous foods. But all jokes aside, personally, and to be completely transparent, I tend to opt away from, not that I would not eat it, but I opt away from foods that are significant effort, right? So if you take, for example, if I wanted a bolus for a giant, like a gallon of juice, a gallon of orange juice, that's going to be really difficult. I don't think it's worth the effort for me. I also just don't care about orange juice that much, right? So I look at the effort that's going to be required for me to craft the right plan. And this is what we talk about, the personalized macronutrient profiles, something we set up for our clients for them, but also something you can look at in terms of what are the strategies required of me in order to enjoy a glass of orange juice with my scrambled eggs, right? How can I find the right strategy for a bowl of cereal without spiking through the roof, right? So for me, it's about the effort that goes into it. I like to have things just streamlined. I don't like to do math equations every time I go to eat. And so I tend to go to foods that are a bit more familiar. I think most of us do. However, I also look at the risk of that food. So what is the potential spike? And to find the potential spike, I'm going to give you guys a little secret nugget here, a golden nugget. You want to know and look up the glycemic index versus the glycemic load. So this gives you some insight into how likely that food is to spike your blood sugars. Now, as we discussed in the personalized macronutrient profile setup, there are a lot of other variables that go into play. It's not just the glycemic index, but that is a good place to start. So as you're looking into how do I navigate, more of the fun foods, if I want to have dessert, if I want to have pasta, if I want to have a giant bowl of cereal, what do I expect? What is the potential risk or threat that this poses to my blood sugars? And how do I mitigate that threat with the right strategies, right? I'm going to take a quick sip. All right, we got some comments. Chicken nuggets and blue box macaroni. I love it. Pizza, French fries from McDonald's, chicken nuggets from McDonald's. Ooh, sounds good. Sort of. I got to say, I haven't eaten McDonald's in about 15 years. I grew up on it, and I've recognized since then that it's not the best option for us, or for anyone, I should say. But it does still sound good, even though I know it's not good for me. For some reason, I'm still drawn to those things. So what's the lesson we can pull from this, right? And I wanted to pull up my notes just to make sure I didn't skip anything. So, looking at the personalized macronutrient profiles, we want to look at what are the foods that are worth the effort, are worth the risk, and do we have the calculations and the knowledge and understanding necessary to make that risk as small as possible. So, you look at a giant plate of pasta with an unknown carb count. There's some mystery sauce that probably has sugar in it. And then you've got chicken that's breaded, more carbs than that. And this entire thing is just a guess. And then you know there's dessert coming next. Two things happen. One, my mouth starts to water. I'm like, this sounds really good. But two, my brain starts to hurt. So I'm like, oh, that's a lot of calculations, right? Those are my first two thoughts. But that third thought, the voice of my wife in this example is, come on, Matt. You've got your personalized macronutrient profile set up already. You know what to do. So take a whack at it. Enjoy the food, and have fun with life. So ultimately understanding that these risks, we can lower the risk if we know deep down, like, how do blood sugars respond? If we know what the glycemic index looks like, if we know how our insulin timing, our macronutrient profiles are going to all come together into one beautiful formula, and using that to set it and forget it. Set the plan, execute, enjoy the food, right? That's what it looks like to have full control of your diabetes. Full control is not restriction. Full control is being able to be flexible and have things still go relatively according to plan. Now, it's not going to be perfect forever. You're going to have certain meals where once you get your formulas set up, your personalized macronutrient profile set up, there will be times, like myself in that example, where things go perfectly. Like, believe it or not, in that example, my blood sugars as a type 1 diabetic, guarantee you, were better and smoother than all of the non-diabetics at that table. Because if you didn't know this, non-diabetics actually do experience blood sugar fluctuations. Their blood sugars do go up and down, just like ours. However, their spikes and drops are a lot more minimized and they're not as long lasting. So if I do spike to 200, I might sit there for 4 hours as I'm throwing insulin at it. If somebody else's blood sugar spiked to 200, they're whoop, and then right back down within like 15 minutes, right? And it's also very unlikely that a non-diabetic is going to hit 200. It's actually a bad sign. But all of that aside, understanding how diabetes work, understanding how these different formulas and strategies and profiles come into play and integrate into your plan allows us to have more flexibility. And in my case, it was a matter of believability. I had to believe that I did have the strategies in order to enjoy that food and not fall back on false pretenses where I used to believe that pasta was going to shoot my blood sugars to 400 again, right? So the one food that, and I want to answer this for you guys, the one food that I don't eat as a type 1 diabetic is any food that to me is not bolus worthy. And that's what we call it. So if it's not bolus worthy, that means to me it's not worth the effort and the risk involved, right? So there are some foods that don't taste that great to me, but they're very high risk and high effort. Well, I'm not going to eat that then, right? Because I don't think it's worth the effort, especially if I don't even like that food to begin with, right? So that's the big thing to consider is it shouldn't be a matter of I can't have foods that I want. It should be I don't have foods that I don't want. That's really the only piece to this puzzle that's missing from a lot of people is a lot of people think they have to restrict their diet based on their diabetes. The reality is you shouldn't have to restrict anything unless you're allergic or, like I said earlier, there's poison, then you want to avoid that. But you don't have to remove things from your diet just to allow you to keep control of your blood sugars. Now, if you want ignorance as your main strategy, then yes, that will work to a certain degree. There is a level of non-compliance where if somebody is refusing to work on their diabetes, then a restrictive diet can be helpful, right? If they're not going to learn how to carb count, if they're not going to learn how to dial in their insulin to carb ratios or watch their blood sugars, right? Or pay attention to diabetes, then yes, a simple rule of thumb where you say, hey, just don't eat a lot of carbs, that could be helpful for them. But if you're like me and you're like, no, it's worth it to understand my disease, my diabetes on a deeper level so that I can not only have a healthy blood sugar, but also be happy, to enjoy life, to have the pasta, the dessert, the breaded chicken, like all the fun stuff that I got to have that night. There is a way to have the stable blood sugars and also have the food, right? What's the phrase? Like, have your cake and eat it too. You're allowed to have both, but it requires work up front, right? And so I wanted to get some thoughts in the comments as well. What are some of your bolus worthy foods? For me, I'm looking at burritos. I'm looking at hamburgers. I'm looking at milkshakes. So some of those are my favorites. Pasta, gonna be honest, pasta is not a huge one for me. I'll eat it. I actually had some last night, but not my favorite food. But what are some of your favorite foods that in your eyes are bolus worthy? And if there were a way to craft a strategy, or what we call a personalized macronutrient profile, PMP for short, if there were a way to set that up for you, what food would be your first experiment? What food would be the first one that you're like, I got to try this thing out and see if I can stay in range for French fries, right? Or for sweet potatoes, or for ice cream? Like, what are your bolus worthy foods? Drop it in the comments real quick. I want to see what you guys got. Get some ideas for me too. Maybe I'll have it for dinner. I know we got a little bit of a delay. So give me your thoughts. Give me your ideas in the comments. Let's see what kind of stuff we got. We got lasagna on Facebook. I love it, from Amy. I had lasagna last week. And that was the first time I had had lasagna in probably a year. And that's more just, I just don't buy lasagna. It was given to me. Lasagna is a good one. And it's tough too, right? You got the pasta component. You've got, in many cases, ground beef, tomato sauce. You've got a good mix of higher carb. There's also some fats and proteins to consider. So we have to look at what's the timing of the insulin required for this. We've got yellow potato curry. Ooh, I haven't had curry in a while too. That might be tonight. We're going to look at that. So curry, depending on the type of curry and the ingredients involved, sometimes can be higher fat, which can sneak up on you later, right? And we got the potatoes as well. So yellow potato curry. Potatoes, we got carbs. Anybody who doesn't know, it's about 25 grams of carbs per cup. All right, so keep that in mind. And I know that you guys are probably like, how does he know that? Over time, you start to memorize the carbs, the fats, the proteins of common foods. So potatoes is very common. If you said, Matt, how many carbs in a cup of curry? I don't know. That's a bit more nuanced, especially because the ingredients can change as well. Another comment coming from Lisa says, my 8-year-old is the T1 in my house. Everything is carbs for him, but his absolute go-to is the big blueberry muffins from Publix. Drives me crazy because if I bolus it all up front, he goes low. But even if I extend for 45 minutes, he goes high anyway. But that's his must-have. Well, I'm glad that we're not restricting. That's fun to hear. And a lot of people hear that blood sugars go crazy and they just stop and say, you know what, you can't have it anymore. It's too much work. So now it's about looking at how do we craft these strategies, right? So I think I actually know what you're talking about. The big blueberry muffins. For us, we go to Costco. Costco's got some really good ones and they're like this big. I think it's like 50 or 60 carbs for a single muffin, but they're absolutely delicious. They've got poppy seed and lemon and some other ones as well. With muffins too, this is a whole conversation in and of itself. Maybe we'll do a separate one. But the caloric density of the foods, in other words, how many calories or carbs per bite, is going to alter my strategy or my personalized macronutrient profile as well, right? So if I've got 50 carbs in a single bite versus 5 carbs per bite, the entire strategy has to shift. So for a muffin, that's pretty carb dense, right? It's a lot of carbs per bite. And as a result, we have to shift our timelines just a little bit, our plans. We got Thelma on YouTube says fried chicken. Oh, that's good. My wife made some great chicken in the air fryer last week. I didn't even know you could do that. It was delicious. And she threw some lemon on there. What else was it? Some flour, some yogurt. You know, you put yogurt around the chicken and it makes it kind of like breaded almost. I don't know. She's a great cook. These are great options, you guys. I love it. So as we're looking at what are the bolus worthy foods, I want you to start thinking about how can I have these fun foods? How can I enjoy these foods, but also stay in range? Now, of course, looking at your personalized macronutrient profile, if we haven't set it up for you yet, then that's something that would be your next step, right? If you don't know what a personalized macronutrient profile is, we're looking at the breakdown of the types of foods in relation to your insulin strategy. So if you don't know how to navigate these different types of meals or these fun meals, it is going to be difficult. And that's where a lot of people give up, because it goes high, it goes low, it goes all over the place. It's inconsistent. They'll have a bowl of pasta and go high on Monday, and then a bowl of pasta on Wednesday and go low. And they're like, I give up. It's just not worth it, right? But the reality is, with the right strategies, any food can be covered and can be enjoyed with healthy blood sugars. We've had a few clients that we've taken on that eat sugar cereal for breakfast. Talk about a challenge for Coach Matt. They're really testing me. They're like, I want to have sugar cereal without the spike. Sugar cereal and milk. I've been shooting to 400, 300. How do I do that and not spike? I don't want to change what I eat for breakfast. I'm like, whew, all right, we're putting me to the test. And then 2 weeks later, perfect blood sugars. Everything has a matching strategy. Everything is possible with diabetes. However, it requires work up front, right? So that's what you have to decide today is, is the food bolus worthy, right? If it's worth the risk to you, worth the effort to figure out, then the next step is putting the effort, taking the risk, and testing out your theories, your strategies, and seeing what works and what doesn't. Take good notes. The more notes you take, the faster you're going to solve this thing. Obviously, the personalized macronutrient profile isn't something that's taught anywhere else. So you're in the right place if you're trying to gain more flexibility, more freedom with your diet. And, I want to add this in there as well. If you're happy with a restricted diet and you really take some time to think about it, and you're like, I eat the same thing. I could eat cardboard every single day and I'm happy, Matt. I don't need food. Food is fuel, nothing else. Then that's okay. I'm not here to change your mind and say you have to eat fun foods. That's not what I'm about. My goal for you is to get the most out of life while living with diabetes, right? And not be stuck in a box, restricted just because of diabetes and be sad all the time. That's no fun. Even if you have perfect numbers, because I've been there, I've had the perfect numbers, but been sad and restricted and depressed. And I was like, this sucks. 100% time in range means nothing if I'm not enjoying my life. And it took me like a year to recognize that. It's like, man, this just isn't worth it. I think I'd rather have crap blood sugars and actually enjoy life. And then, of course, found the balance between the two, thankfully, where I could have good blood sugars and still have a good life as well. So someone on Facebook, Lisa says, is that something that could be done with my son, even if he is still in the honeymoon stage? Great question. So the honeymoon stage does kind of flip some switches, right? It does change things up a little bit. Because it's a little bit unpredictable. A lot of people have reported that their honeymoon stages didn't match what their doctors told them to expect. They'll say, hey, it could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 years, or it could never go away. And you're like, that's super helpful. Not, right? Like, how am I supposed to build a plan off of 2 weeks to 2 years? When's it going to happen? And so the plan to be built instead is what we call the reactive side of the formulas. And so, yes, you can create the plans to plan ahead, but instead I like to look at how do we craft a plan for when plans don't go according to plan. I said plan way too many times in that sentence, but basically when life doesn't go as we intended, what do you do then? How do you adapt, right? And that's the strategy that I've found oftentimes works best with our clients who have children with type 1 diabetes is how do you adapt? Because in many cases, the children don't always follow the rules, as I'm discovering with my own now. She's learning about defiance and how she can just do what she wants. We told her, hey, walk over here. And she turns around and walks the other way. So, with diabetes, if you're having a hard time with adhering to a schedule or to routines or to rules even, hey, don't eat without insulin. That's where it's a lot more important to find out how to adapt. And we have an adaptive formula for that side of things as well, which we coach people on with their kids. So what I want you guys to take away from today is that there is no food or drink that is fully off limits. However, if you want to enjoy that food or that drink with stable blood sugars, it will require effort. And it is up to you to determine what's worth the effort. What is worth the risk? And of course, at the end of that equation is how do we reduce the risk? And then beyond that, if you are getting your personalized macronutrient profile set up by us, that also inherently reduces the effort as well. Because once you understand the moving pieces of diabetes, it all tends to kind of fall into place. It's not going to be automatic. It doesn't just get fixed overnight. I want to clarify that. But once you put the work in, you can see everything in front of you, and the whole picture gets clearer. There's a lot less mysteries, a lot less scary zones of what's going to happen because you have that certainty and that clarity, right? Any other comments? No, we're good there. So ultimately, you got to decide for yourself what's bolus worthy, and is it worth the effort? Is it worth the risk? And over time, how do I reduce that risk and then reduce the effort required to enjoy those foods? Where now, as my wife has told me many, many times, we can go out. I see pasta, pizza, hamburger, milkshake, whatever it is. I don't eat junk food often, but when we go out, I know how to dose for it, right? It's just a simple equation. Now it's a simple equation. It took some time initially, but that's what we help people to do. So what we can do now is that if you guys are looking for help with your diets and you're like, I have bolus worthy foods in mind, there's stuff that I want to eat and it totally is worth the effort, let me know in the chat if that's something that we can set up for you. It's not going to work for everyone. That's why I love these questions in here. But if you're interested in seeing if the personalized macronutrient profile would work for your situation, comment the 3 letters PMP. I'm not going to make you type it all out because it's a long string of words, but type PMP. And what we'll do is either myself or one of our team members will reach out to you, ask you a few questions about what foods sound good, what's your current diet look like, what do your diabetes numbers overall look like, and see if we can match something up with you. At the very least, get you a strategy for what you should Google or search on our YouTube, because we've got hundreds of resources there. So we already got some PMP comments from Amy, from Lisa. Love it. So drop the 3 letters PMP, and one of us will reach out and see if the profile would work for you. And if not, like I said, we'll still send you the right resources so you can get some help, get some strategies going. Because food is delicious. I don't want you to think that it's scary, that it's off limits, that it has to be restricted. I used to think that way. I was miserable. I was told by my doctor on day 1 I could never have sugar or carbs ever again. Misinformation. Yes. Okay. So it's possible. It just requires the right strategies. That's what it boils down to. All right. So I'm going to go have pancakes for dinner. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, drop PMP. There's another one from Thelma. I see you on YouTube. We've got a couple people in there as well. Awesome. Dara says PMP. So I'll reach out to you guys, and if I don't, one of my team members will. But yeah, I'm actually going to have pancakes for dinner tonight because it sounds delicious. And I hope you guys enjoy your food, whatever is next for you. If you're looking for some help, drop PMP and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place, every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Have a fantastic weekend ahead. Do something fun. Try and find some foods that are bolus worthy. And let me know if you need help figuring it out. All right. So have a good one. I'll catch you guys next time and keep up the fight.